It was kind of a little bit like our Thanksgiving in that people would come together, they'd play games, eat, drink, tell stories, and because it was a big community kind of day or festival, the dead were naturally part of it. And there was a belief that the other world was especially present at this time, at summer's end, because we were going into the dark and dangerous season.
This is Lee Habib, and this is Our American Stories, and we tell stories about everything here on this show, including yours. Send them to ouramericanstories.com. Today we're going to bring to light the Halloween stories that have been hiding in the dark, answering the question, why do we participate in these strange celebrations every Halloween season? Here to tell the story are two of the foremost authorities on Halloween, Lesley Bannatyne and Lisa Morton. Lesley is the author of Halloween, An American Holiday and American History. Lisa is the author of Trick or Treat, A History of Halloween. Here's Lesley and Lisa with the story of Halloween.
I'm Lesley Bannatyne. I've been looking at, researching, and writing about Halloween for over 35 years now, and it's still interesting to me. And so I guess if you wanted to start the story of Halloween, you could go back to Samhain, which was a time of year in northwestern Europe. That's Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Brittany. It means summer's end. Samhain means summer's end. And it was a time of year around November 1st where tribes would move their livestock back to winter quarters to keep them safe, and they would gather together. It was kind of a little bit like our Thanksgiving in that people would come together, they'd play games, eat, drink, tell stories, and because it was a big community kind of day or festival, the dead were naturally part of it. And there was a belief that the other world was especially present at this time, at summer's end, because we were going into the dark and dangerous season. And it's always good to consult with the ancestors when you're going into something dangerous.
Samhain, which by the way is spelled Samhain, it looks like it should be pronounced Samhain, but it's not, it is Samhain, was a day that they did indeed celebrate on October 31st. Their festivals started when the sun went down, so it began actually on the evening of October 31st and then spilled over into November 1st. And it was a night when they believed that the veil between the worlds was at its thinnest and that things could cross over and cause real mischief on that night. They believed in really malicious fairies called the Sidhe. And a lot of people have heard of the Banshee. That actually translates to a female fairy. And these fairies were really nasty little things. We're not talking Disney Tinkerbell kind of things here. We're talking things that would come over and burn down their palaces. There's a famous story about that. There's another story about a hero who is sent out by the king on Samhain Eve to place a cord around the foot of a corpse, which is something that no one else has been able to do. And when he does this, the corpse comes to life, and he lets it down, and it takes it out to get a drink. It's thirsty, and it spits on people and kills them. I mean, this is an absolutely terrifying story. So it definitely had a very macabre element, Samhain did. And then when the Christians, missionaries came in, and they were anxious to convert these Celts to their faith, and they had a doctrine of not just trying to stamp out existing celebrations, but of trying to co-opt them. And Pope Gregory III was one of the big people who was behind this doctrine of trying to co-opt these existing celebrations. And so they sent the missionaries in, and they moved the date of their saints celebration. Originally, All Saints' Day was celebrated on May 13th, which was an old Roman holiday associated with the dead. But they moved it to November 1st, and so it would begin on the eve before. And they did that to try and co-opt Samhain. And it was not entirely successful, interestingly enough. So a few centuries after that, they added a second holiday, which is All Souls' Day. And that actually happens on November 2nd. All Souls' Day also served the purpose of letting everyone celebrate their deceased loved ones, not just saints. So it had kind of a dual role there, and that became much more successful. Now they were starting to convert the Celts and so forth.
And All Saints' Day doesn't have a lot to do with Halloween, but it did give Halloween its name. For All Saints' Day is known in some countries as All Hallows. All Hallows means saint or holy one. And so All Hallows' Eve would be the eve before All Hallows' Day, All Saints' Day. So Halloween comes from All Saints' Day, the name Halloween, but Halloween gets its juju from All Souls' Day. And so here you have the same kind of thing going on as what's going on with Samhain, is that the church recognizes there's a time every year to honor the dead. There's several times, but in the fall, as winter is approaching, All Souls' Day was instituted in about the 11th century, and people have been visiting graveyards and remembering their loved ones and thinking of the dead for the last 1,000 years on that day, and still do, of course. In many Catholic countries, there's still visitations to the graveyards. It's an important holiday, and it's an important time to remember the dead. So that comes along from Samhain through the church and becomes very popular throughout medieval times. So doesn't have anything to do with modern Halloween. Really, they're separate. But what does is the eve of All Saints' Day, the night going into this holy set of holidays, which is Halloween. And like Mardi Gras is to Lent, Halloween is to these really important church days. It's the time to have a party. It's secular time. It's fun time. It's gather together, play games, eat, drink, tell stories before you go into the serious church holidays where you're going to spend a lot of time indoors.